It's morning at well 33. Well 33 is known on the canning stock route as the halfway point. Not because it's halfway, but because it is the one place, the only place on over 1,700 kilometers of rough desert track where you can get some supplies and refuel. The first part has been approximately 675 kilometers of track, and the second half for us, because we're heading south, is just a spot under 1,000. So what we're going to do today, we're going to head off into the village, which is called Kunarawarigi. It's a word that I can't actually say unless I'm actually reading it. It's obviously an Aboriginal village, and they supply travellers like us with the supplies that we need. And we're going to head off there in an hour or so after the sun's a bit higher and we've sorted out all our kit for the day's travel. So, what I like to call part 2 has started. I'm Andrew St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and travelling to the remotest parts of the world. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and remember to hit that notifications bell to make sure you catch our weekly videos. Part 2 means that we've woken up a little more than 1/3 the way along Alfred Canning's stock route, and we're camped at well 33 near the village of Kunarawarigi. Pumped from the ground by a windmill, it's amongst the sweetest water that we will find anywhere on the route, so we fill up everything we can. The only other meaningful supply that we can get at Kunarawarigi is fuel. Arrived at the village for refueling. Quite a few vehicles here getting fuel. So we're just sussing out which is the best way to queue. Fuel here is going to cost approximately $3.50 a litre. In town it's between $1.20 and $1.30 down in Perth, for example. Fuel consumption has been a little better than average. We will be able to finish the last part of the canning stock route on just the two 90-litre tanks, not needing to dip into the extra 20 litres we're carrying. But we've still got the 20 litres as a safety. With this much extra weight, now with full fuel and now with full water, getting the tyre pressures up a bit. They were just too low for this much weight. When I arrive in these little communities, no matter where I'm travelling, there's more rural communities with their own sounds, their own flavours, their own colours. I like to just walk around and just kind of soak it all up, as opposed to just getting back in the car and just rushing off. And this is just full of life, people and dogs, and there's a clinic over there, and government workers over there, and some Land Cruisers over there. The area around Kunarawarigi is renowned for its corrugations, washboards. I don't know if you can hear me above the squeaking. We've still got a rattle in the car that's driving us crazy. We're working on it, but a little bit about corrugations and the sweet spot. The challenge with corrugations is to find the sweet spot. There are often two of them, one at a slow speed and one considerably faster. The sweet spot is the speed at which the tyres ride over the troughs. They kind of bounce from one mound to another. Reaching the fast sweet spot can sometimes be harrowing because the vehicle is shaken so violently, it's sometimes just impossible to reach it. And sometimes you just have to settle for the slow one. That sweet spot can change. It is affected by the vehicle itself, its wheelbase, the load it's carrying, the tyre pressures, the outside temperature and thickness of the sand, the frequency and depth, obviously, of the corrugations. But the only control we really have on a day-to-day basis, when we get in the vehicle and we hit the corrugations, the only real control we have is the pressure in our tires. Now, more damage is done to overland trucks by corrugations that can be avoided by lowering tire pressures. And I've learned over the years that if ever there is a time where it's a really good idea to let the tire pressures down, apart from the obvious where you're driving in very thick sand and you need a big footprint, corrugations. It reduces the damage significantly, and the ability to find the sweet spot is that much easier. And what it also does, and this is significant, at the higher speed sweet spot, sometimes that speed is actually a little bit too high for safety. The vehicle starts to skate, and that can be extremely dangerous. And what a lower tire pressure tends to do, it reduces the speed of that high speed sweet spot. I'm just contemplating what we have ahead of us. Imagine doing a 4x4 trail that's 1,000 kilometers long, 1,000 kilometers off-road. There will be no settlements, no farms. We'll probably see a few other vehicles, but empty wilderness for 1,000 kilometers. And we're anticipating this piece to take 12 days. It's quite a thing. I've done a lot of traveling in my time, but I don't think anything quite like this. 1,000. To me, it's a huge thing to think about and contemplate. But that's what we're doing. En route to well 29, we've pulled off to camp for the night. It's etiquette on the canning stock to camp near the wells, because that means that the impact from campers is reduced and not scattered all over the place. However, the impact at so many of the wells is so severe that, in fact, if you want to go to the toilet, you walk, well 32, you'd probably need to walk half a kilometre before you stop seeing little piles of earth. So the entire place, as beautiful as it is one enormous latrine, because there are no facilities. The water we collected, however, is beautiful and pure. So we've pulled off the track, and we see that on the plain quite a few people have camped in the past. There are remnants of campfires, and camping on grass like this, of course, we have very, very little impact. Surrounding us is spinifex, and as soft as it looks, camping on spinifex would be more uncomfortable than camping on sharp volcanic rock. It's completely out of the question. Many of the wells are derelict, like this one, same as well 29. But so often around the wells, the area is flattened. There's very little grass. People do camp here, which has kept the grass down. But this would have been a place where cattle would have gathered in very large numbers to be watered. And that's why I think one of the reasons why they always chose flat ground to put the wells. There are always trees, which indicates underground water. What amazes me is that in this vast, vast landscape, they were able to actually find water and drill for it. And the amount of time it actually took them to sink all these wells actually wasn't very long. They knew how to find water, and they were very skilled at it. We've stopped off a bit early today because we found this absolutely magnificent valley, so reminiscent of about a year ago in the Namib. We also found a horseshoe valley, and it was so beautiful, and I tried to fly the drone there, but this time I know it'll work. Right, here we go. This magnificent place is what I've calculated is the halfway point between the beginning of the Canning Stock route at Halls Creek, just outside Halls Creek, at our first camping site, to Wiluna, which will be our final stop on the route. And here, within 10 or so kilometers, is the halfway point. Time to celebrate. What we need is some champagne, or something close.
I'm terribly sorry, I don't have any champagne.
But I have some bubbly.
Bubbly?
Yep.
Well, that will do.
Yep. Well, guys, it's halfway, so I thought we'd celebrate. Yeah, you agree?
Absolutely.
But
we have nothing to celebrate with.
Nothing to celebrate with. Well, I have some bubbly.
Yes.
You didn't bring bubbly?
We didn't bring bubbly.
No, they didn't bring it.
We brought
I've already asked them,
honestly.
they didn't bring them. Anyway, there you go. There's 3. So what I now need to do is to sort out some
Bubbly.
bubbly. Yes. Here you go. Yeah.
Then
And this one. Cheers, everybody. Your very good health.
to great travel on the Canning Stock
halfway.
The Canning Stock halfway.
And a wonderful sunset.
This wasn't the well water.
This is a great vintage, huh?
Very good.
Canning Stock
Canning
2017.
It was
going to
the,
be a vintage
Which
to
well did
remember.
we get it out of? It was the one where the bit's floating in it, because we had to filter it through a cloth.
Yes.
Yeah. It
Great.
makes for really good taste.
And with an air
Really
compressor
good.
bubbles.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm more, please.
No problem. Gee whiz. Look at these little guys. Can you see that? Can you see them? These are little buggers. Some nasty little thorns. Anyway, welcome to our... Ouch. Ha! Welcome to our second part. They're sharp. Second part of the Canning Stock route. Early in the morning. This is what we've called this Horseshoe Canyon. We arrived here quite quite early-ish. I mean, later than we would normally do. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But we just thought, oh, what a magnificent place to fly some drones. And of course now the morning is absolutely glorious. Bird sounds, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. What a place to be. And welcome to the second part of the Canning Stock route. From now on, it's homeward bound. It will take us another 10 days to get back to, well, get to Willona, which is the final point. It's the last point, the most southerly point of the Canning Stock route. And then it's then 1 day home for me. It took me 4 days driving, 4 full days driving to get to the northern point of the Canning Stock, which is at a place called Halls Creek. Well 26 is another one of the landmark wells on the Canning Stock route, and it's landmark because it's been refurbished. It's been completely restored, unlike so many of the wells on the route that are really just in ruins. But the water here is sweet, so we're going to top up everything we can.
This wood is soft and sweet. It's really, really good.
This morning's drive has been so typical of Canning Stock. Dune, valley, bam! Something new. It's just amazing. We've stopped for a break on the banks of Lake George. At least we think it's Lake George. Shade is a little hard to come by, so we'll have to make our own. It wasn't very long ago that there was no fuel available on the Canning Stock route at all. The village where we collected our fuel was not a reliable place to get fuel. And so the solution was to organise a fuel dump. This is close to well 23, close to halfway along the Canning Stock route. And this is where the fuel was left. You basically just say, my name is, there you go, Land Rover Club. Please deposit so many litres of fuel, and you pay for it, and they drive 450 kilometres and they leave it here for you. And well, we haven't needed to use this system, so I imagine this system will slowly fade out because reliable fuel supplies are now available on the track. Again, finding a clearing in the spinifex has been challenging. So it's close to sunset when we pull over onto what looks like an ancient lake bed. I can't think of a trip that I've ever undertaken where the campsites have been so varied. Every day a different scene. And yet every day the driving conditions in so many respects are very similar. Today, lots of dunes. First time in the entire trip that I actually had to take a second attempt at getting over a dune. Just came in a little bit too slowly, went back, went into low third. I'd been driving the first and second high. up over all the dunes all week. This one needed a little bit more power and a little bit more accurate entry speed onto the dune, and yet here we are, this grass, no thorns, no spinifex in the trees with the birds. It's magnificent. Good morning and welcome to this wonderful parkland. I think that during the wet this might be an area where the water leaves last or stays long, because there's no spinifex here, and because there's no spinifex we've been able to set up a beautiful campsite. Last night we filmed the inspection of the vehicle, which you need to do after rough roads, and we filmed that little thing, and we had a meal and actually went to bed very early because it started to get a little bit chilly, and so I've had an extremely rewarding and long sleep. It's about 6:30 in the morning now, just after sunrise, and today we're going to another area where the water sticks around for a long time, and that is Lake Disappointment. Now, Lake Disappointment is probably, if you look at the map of Canningstock, the most significant landmark on the entire route. And so personally I hope that Lake Disappointment won't be a disappointment. No, I'm sorry. Really terrible joke. We've spent quite a bit of the day driving over grass. It's time to check if there's any of it getting caught underneath the Land Cruiser. That's not bad. Not bad. Quite a bit of it. It's not impacting anyway. I'm trying. It's a new vehicle. I don't know where it might compact. Once you get to know your vehicle, then you'll know where to look, where the trouble spots are. I don't know if this car's got any trouble spots. It's really not bad, but the spring hanger there, but there. It's not too bad. Here's the exhaust pipe here, and that's what worries me. And there's a place there that this would be susceptible, although it's catching no grass, but it might do. Although it's underneath, close to the wheel, so I'm just going to keep an eye out for it, really, because I don't want any nasty surprises. There are tracks across some of the salt pan. Well, they look dry. I'm not going to take the chance. It just would take one short soft bit. It's so soft when it does get soft, but there are rough tracks around it. So wet season, this is the track you drive. Dry season, you can drive that track, but other than that, I'm just going to play it safe and drive on the safe track. Our first piece of standing water that we must cross. Better to check it out first. Actually looks quite soft, but I don't know what choice we have if it's very soft. Got to get across, and this is the only track. Firm, and then it's quite soft. This area here is quite soft. I don't think you're going to have a difficulty. It's a bit soft on the edge here. That's the shallowest bit there. That's deep. All right. we've moved into the depression. This depression reaches Lake Disappointment. And if it's gonna get boggy anywhere on this route, it's gonna be here. Secretly, I really hope it doesn't get boggy. Because I know this is a salt marsh. I know what it's like getting stuck in a salt marsh. It can get extremely soft. But what a place. That mud is a bit whiffy. After 3 weeks of safari, it smells like the inside of my tent. I'm walking now on Lake Disappointment. The surface under my feet is very, very soft, as you can see. And the texture is even. It doesn't have a crust on top. It just is soft from the top right the way down, and of course the color underneath is red. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to fly my drone. These places like this, the salt pans of Botswana and now Lake Disappointment, that for me is a major tick, box tick, done. This is where mapping and getting more than one map is important. We've been using the HEMA HX1 navigator with its inbuilt maps, and it's been more than adequate to find our way on the Canning Stock route. But here is where it's let me down a bit, and it's not the navigator that's let me down, it's the map. Now, in Laura and Justin's vehicle, they've also got a HEMA map, but they are using it with a different piece of software on an iPad. And on that map is this track. It's not on this navigator, but it is on their iPad. And this track is, well, I can see it hasn't been used much. The grass is quite high in the middle, but it has been used. And it's going to the shoreline of Lake Disappointment, and we're going to set up camp there. Had we not had both maps, we would not have known about this particular track, and I have a feeling this could be one of the most sensational campsites, certainly sunrises of the entire trip.
Incredible. What a treat. So it doesn't get soft here. Check. There's the track there, there's the track there.
This could easily get soft at any second. Shall we walk ahead?
I think so.
This is a pretty nice campsite right here, actually. I don't think we're going to be able to get to the bed of the lake because that's a long way.
It's just not worth the risk.
It's not worth the risk unless, well, we can.
We'll send Justin out. Listen, we need someone to test the track. It'll be nice and heavy and it'll get stuck easily. Do you want to come and test it?
Soft here, eh?
That's probably going to pull you out. Must you be there? Oops, you got one. These camel prints.
Yeah.
Camel footprints.
Yeah.
Lots of them, look at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stunning.
It's typical salt pan. It's sinking in 1/2 inch. It feels firmish, but it could be slush underneath.
Amazing. Very different again.
Sticky underfoot, and she's sinking in.
Yeah.
And as soon as you break that cross to the vehicle, that's like glue.
We're taking the wise course of action, and actually it's more impressive with the contrast of the white salt. The red earth is more dramatic. We could go further, but this is magnificent, and the ground is getting soft very quickly behind the vehicles. Yet another absolutely staggering campsite. The last vestiges of Lake Disappointment. Once we leave tomorrow, we won't be seeing it again. We'll end our rolling dunes, and we'll be heading for narrow bush tracks and rough country. Live for this. Australia's been a surprise to me. There's no point in comparing it to other places that I visit because they're different. They're not just different. I mean, Australia is unique. The red and the colour of the sky, and all these things that make all of these amazing places unique. They are unique in themselves. So comparing them is pointless. But Australia has surprised me in another way. I have a passion for Africa, for the wild places of Africa. I've spent so much time in them that I love them and yearn for them. Australia has been surprising in that it wasn't surprising in terms of the red and the long distances and the gravel roads and red dust and the brilliant skies and the Southern Cross and the vistas, and that wasn't a surprise to me because I've watched movies and I've seen television programs and things. That wasn't a surprise to me. But the experience of Australia, the Outback Australia, has been a surprise to me. But more than a surprise, an absolute delight. I've only been on the road now, on the track I should say, for about 2 weeks. And I have fallen in love with Outback Australia. It is words fail me, truthfully. It's astonishing.
We are going to do
This
such
is
an amazing meal.
endless.
Here's to the sunset.
Here's to the
Cheers,
sunset.
cheers.
Another great day. Another amazing day.
To a beautiful sunset.
I'm very disappointed there, I must say. I'm disappointed that you trumped me again.
You so did, you know that. You have got just about all the fantastic nights camping.
You got that one.
Oh, 1 out of
That
110.
amazing one. that
We
booked
condemned
for
it
us
outright.
before.
You just said no.
No.
We're going
That's it.
As we argue amongst ourselves about who always finds the best campsites, which is always Justin, the Milky Way wraps us in its cloak. As we wake well before sunrise, we discover that Lake Disappointment has changed its name.
Good morning and welcome to Sunrise over Lake, having a fantastic time. There it is.
Durba Springs is one of the most popular campsites on all of the route. Probably the most well-known of all the campsites because it's so pretty. And yes, it is. It's glorious, in fact. Wow, this is beautiful. This is really something, isn't it? Absolutely glorious. And some guy on the road said, I don't go to Durba Springs, it's overrated. How can this be overrated? It's gorgeous. Yes, there are other people here, but I mean, this is our chill out day. We've been driving now for 2 weeks and 1 day, and average of about 7 hours behind the wheel every day. And it's midday, and we've been driving this morning 3 hours. We're going to just chill, shoot some pictures, drink some cold things, and just take it easy for the day. I welcome you to join us during our chill time. That up and go for a walk around the vehicle. So in terms of ease of putting it up, you know, what I like to call the hassle factor, I would say this is, come to think of it, one of the best. Oh, this is the front driver feather light.
There's two people. No, just hold in something. Here you go, hold this. There you go. Do a wider one for the side.
And Laura, you have to stay here for the entire 3 days.
Yes. It's actually very good for stretching after a long drive.
Good. Yes, come on guys, let's go and have a drink. You've been at this long enough, let's go. This man is a raving idiot. Firstly, now you tell me if this, you tell me if it's okay to open a biscuit packet in the middle and not at the end.
Well, look, that was going to be my first.
Well, I picked it up like this and then anything landed on the floor and then you threw water at it. Oh, there's your biscuits.
All right, we'll try and save our lunch.
You did. He's an idiot.
Tuna.
Tuna.
Good morning, welcome to Durba Springs. This is by far the most popular campsite and rest spot on the southern end of the trail. Almost every visitor to Canning Stock will come here, and well, hardly surprising, there's ghost gums against the red rock walls. It is superb. If you're a birding enthusiast, spend a few days here. The trees are just full of birds. And this place has a story to tell. About where I'm standing, in the late 70s, stood 2 date palms in this area. Nobody knows how they got here. But what the ecologists realized was that the date palms were actually sucking up so much underground water that the spring here had dried because of them. And so they had them removed. And the spring is back. And it's time now to recognize the Canning Stock route is available to us four-wheel drivers because of the efforts of quite a lot of unsung heroes. The cattle route itself, where the cattle were actually driven, is not exactly where you drive, but the wells are. The wells were those points where the cattle were watered, obviously. And the cattle were actually not driven all the way to Aluna. So there's lots of history about exactly where it started and where it actually ends. But the track was first established by four-wheel drive enthusiasts many, many years ago, where the track was barely visible and probably didn't exist in places. It certainly didn't exist as a two-wheel vehicle track as it does today. A lot of the wells are derelict. But enough of them are not only not derelict, they've been rebuilt, refurbished, and the water is sweet. If it hadn't been for those people sorting out and rebuilding those wells, nobody would be able to do the Canning Stock route. It's just too far. You would have to carry so much water. It would be so much more of a challenge than it is now. So from me personally, and I imagine everybody who's ever done the Canning Stock route, thank you.
I haven't been counting, but the number of wrecked vehicles and wrecked trailers on the Canning Stock route it's unbelievable. And it's very obvious that all but one of the vehicles was destroyed by fire, and probably all of them by grass fires. I have counted at least 4 trailers in bits abandoned. So I don't think that this kind of route can be taken lightly when thinking about preparing a vehicle or preparing oneself for this kind of trip. It's a vehicle, not only is it a vehicle breaker, it destroys vehicles that are not well prepared. And also I think not just the vehicles need to be well prepared, people operating them need to know what the problems are. And obviously one of the main problems is grass catching fire underneath the vehicle. This is a Pajero. I've been here a long time. Today has been an interesting day, mostly because of the clouds. Up to now, every day we've had a cloud-free sky. I mean, barely a single white spot in 360 degrees. But today, fair weather cumulus clouds surround us, and it's changing the colour of the desert. We're still driving over dunes. They're not particularly steep, not particularly difficult. And there are also lots of sections of rock in the track, so going is really quite slow. The first bit of rock crawling with my Land Cruiser. Low first, it's like a donkey. It just goes up, without any coaxing at all.
There are very few desert routes in Australia that inspire adventure seekers quite like the Canning. Driving it, as we are in well-equipped modern four-wheel drive vehicles, is by far the easiest way to cover the distance. But stories of its conquest lie scattered along its tracks. This is New Zealander Murray Rankin's handcart he used during his failed 1972 attempt to walk the route unaided. Most notable of later and successful attempts include, of course, South African Gaynor Schoeman's attempt in 2013. Thinking about walking this distance, particularly unaided, I think maybe I should just stop talking now. One of the most striking and unexpected features of not only this route, but Outback Australia, are the wild flowers.
And here the scent, this is almost overpowering from these blooms. The colours change constantly. I've never seen wildflowers in such profusion ever in any of my travels as I have over the last 2 weeks.
Well, here we are again at a well. This time it's well 15, topping up with water. Where's my hat? Found a possible campsite. No, it's not a designated campsite, it's actually a designated viewing spot, but it's 4 in the afternoon. And we figure, well, if it's a nice camp spot, it might be really, really good. It's very beautiful out there, but it's not very flat.
With that, it's okay. I know you have our bonnet.
Be up there.
You can be up there, yeah. Well, actually, I am going to go up there. I reckon we can, if I put the wheels gently over that, we can come in here.
A few rocks, I can make that work. It's Vista time. Everybody point. Wow.
There's a vista.
There's over there.
I'm training them. They're doing better today. Except for Justin, he's a slow learner.
Isn't a bit... He's looking for camels. He's looking for camels. Shame. The vista's here as well. The other vista's there.
We're doing that.
Now that's what I like to see in my classes, enthusiasm.
And when we see a camel, we say,
Camel!
"Camel!" Even if there isn't one.
Yeah, only because we heard everyone else get excited. It's hilarious.
So, we are having for supper
Uncle Ben's rice.
Uncle Ben's rice. Some
This is hard to cook, eh? It's
really
it's
challenging.
30 mil of water.
You've got to measure 30 ml of water. That's about how difficult it gets.
Yeah, well,
And a sauce with garlic
some tuna,
and tuna.
tuna, which I like. You don't like, but
I like tuna.
you do.
Just that you like it a little bit more than I do.
That's about it. Takes us about 10 minutes.
This is really pushing
Great.
the boundaries of cuisine.
No, the best food
Bush
we've had
cuisine.
was made by Erin, your daughter.
Erin, thank you.
Yeah.
We made
Great.
some really nice pre-made, and we've still got about
Pre-made
4
meals.
left. They're in the
Pre-made
freezer.
meals that we could just warm up in the bowl
Yeah.
and eat.
Should we take out one for tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me go and do that now.
Do that. And don't forget the chocolate, which is still cooling
Chocolate's
off.
in the fridge. Calm down.
Okay, just pudding, chocolate pudding.
Good morning. To the possums, seen none. Kangaroos, 1. Camels, about 20. And birds, a lot. We're quite close to well 15 where we picked up water yesterday on a lookout point. The last thing I remember last evening was the 4 of us sitting and enjoying a magnificent sunset. And now this morning, a sunrise. I wish I could see a camel then, I'd have. If it was the other way around, I'd have a problem.
Well, I did see a possum.
Yeah, right. Me.
I can't beat the amazing shots you get at sunrise. I'm going to take photos of us taking photos.
Far more interesting.
That's more interesting.
We are going to have a competition today. Today we're going to set it up today, but we'll show it right at the end of the series. We're going to have a kind of a competition between the 4 of us choosing the best campsite. I can't remember a trip where this particular challenge of voting the best is too early in the morning. It'll be a difficult one, difficult choice. Boy, we found some amazing campsites.
Oh man, this is one of them.
Really?
Sure.
This is one of them.
Absolutely one
No
of them.
question. Thank you. Cheers.
One.
Thank you. Most days we've been driving, just kind of casually driving along with an aim to make about 80 to 90 kilometers every day with no particular destination in mind. And then close to 3 o'clock we start thinking about places to camp, and normally by 4 o'clock we've found a marvellous place. Today is a little different in that we've got 98 kilometers that we want to achieve today to get to a place called White Lake. And that's where we hope to camp tonight, because we think that might be a nice spot.
What have they found? What could be in the bushes there? I bet I know what it is. Yes, I'm right. It's, 14. Laura, our chief navigator, marks it off the list. It appears that only one of the many vehicle wrecks is marked on most maps.
This is the first wrecked Land Rover we've seen.
And this is
I think
it.
all of the others have been Japanese trucks. This has been here a long, long time. And definitely fire, because the aluminium has melted in the blaze.
Battery. What's left?
There, the battery there. Well, this would have been a Series 2. Yeah, headlamps, inboard headlamps on the grill. Would you agree? Series 2.
Very old, eh?
It's been here a long time. The worst corrugations of the entire route, just south of the Goodwin Soak. That's well 11.
absolutely convinced that it's because they're so bad because of hard tyre pressures. There are enormous yumps up all the dunes because of tyre pressures, spinning wheels. There are terrible corrugations because of hard tyre pressures. And it must be a thing that everybody's driving with tyres that are too hard for the conditions, because if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have such terrible corrugations. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And you wouldn't have all the yumps up and down all the dunes. It's just my opinion, but they're really bad here. And they're the type of corrugations where the sweet spot is so fast it's dangerous. So you just forget it. It's not safe. So you just have to live with the pounding, play extremely loud music to drown it out.
Well, it's a little after 11:30 in the morning. This has been the fastest run of the entire trip so far. We've in fact done close to 80 kilometers this morning in about 3 hours. So I'm not sure if we're going to camp here after all, but certainly no camping spots that we've seen. But again, amazing. This is actually Lake Aerodrome, named because aircraft do land here, I suppose. White Lake is just over that dune there. All right, well 9. We're leaving feels as if we're leaving the really remote parts of the track. This is a cattle station at well 9. And the day's been tough actually. We've made very good distance, but the corrugations have been horrible. But it definitely getting back towards civilization. That's not altogether desirable at this point. But the presence of cattle has actually been evident all day today. And as we've been driving, the grass is lower, thinner, huge areas where there is no grass at all, obviously severely overgrazed. And the telltale signs of cattle are same as they are in Africa. Denuded ground. And the wild animals have been replaced by stock. And we need to find a campsite because it is quite late. But I don't want to camp anywhere near cattle. The flies will be terrible. I think we should carry on going.
It's not long and we find a clearing to set up camp. Time for a shower.
That buzzing sound is the shower. Paul's taking a shower using water from one of the wells that we filled up in one of the loose containers. And having a shower costs anything between 3 and 6 litres to have a really good warm shower. We switched on the shower about an hour before we thought about looking for a campsite. So by the time we get to the campsite, the water's good and hot. It takes about half an hour to get to temperature. And I feel like a new person. All clean and sparkly.
I've just spent close to 3 weeks exploring Australia's outback by driving one of the country's and the world's most remote public tracks. I'm coming to the end of my expedition, which for me has made such an impression on me that all I want to do now is do it all over again.
This is called New Moon Camp. We decided to call it that because of an absolutely glorious new moon setting, and away from the spinifex grass so we can have a lovely fire.
First fire in a long time, eh?
And in the background, delicate sounds of
I've got a brown bag.
cooking around the camp.
Smoked oysters.
Yes.
Goat's cheese. What else is for supper? Goat's cheese. Wow.
Ghost cheese, chicken, sage.
This evening, Justin and Laura are cooking dinner.
Shallots.
Not onions, but shallots that we've carried all this way.
The fact that we have fresh
we're not-
chicken and fresh shallots at this
Well,
stage
listen,
of the
the
trip.
It'll give Paul and I a welcome relief from pasta.
We did see a rabbit earlier.
We do.
Yeah, we did.
Rabbits for tomorrow night.
And of course,
What you guys are carrying in your car beggars belief.
I cannot believe it. No, we did pick the right people to partner with to come and travel with
But
us.
we didn't eat enough with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless, of course, you want pasta.
Yeah, we did offer our pasta, but they turned it
They
down.
turned it down. And I wonder why.
Because one of us would burn it probably, and the rest of it.
Okay, only was one night. I don't know. It's been an interesting day's driving today. Quite easy going, rough at times, some bad corrugations, but lots of oncoming traffic, far more than we've seen during, in fact, the whole trip, except perhaps with the exception of day one. And perhaps a lot of people were travelling during the school holidays or now want to escape the school holidays and left together. But it's a bit of a mystery because in the middle of the route we saw hardly anybody at all, and know of no other people travelling north-south, which is a bit odd. But it definitely feels like it's winding up. We're winding up the trip. There's a sense that we're getting back into civilization. And although it's another 300 kilometers of the Canning Stock route, that's 3 full days driving before we get to Wiluna, the last point. It's not feeling remote anymore. And I think it's another reason, another really good reason, to actually do the trail from north to south, because I think the best bits are in the north and in the middle. My impression is that it's not, from now on, it's going to be very similar to what we saw today.
So I'm wrong again. Another spring adorned with ghost gum trees.
This is well 6, and obviously a very popular camping site. Those wells that have been refurbished, some of them have been furnished with bits of history, little photograph and a story, an anecdote of the pioneers of this area. And while these programs that I'm producing now are really not about the Canning Stock route and its history, but more how it can be enjoyed now, the history is amazing, particularly the interaction of the settlers with the Aboriginal peoples. And amongst that was some wonderful things that happened and some terrible things that happened. And many of those are shared on these plaques.
Oh, she was heavy enough.
This is the last opportunity that we will have to top up our water tanks on this trip.
With well 6 behind us, so are the dunes. It's hard to believe that we've crossed over 1,000 of them. And we still have a little over 200 kilometers to go before the last point, which is Wiluna. And this morning we've been greeted again and again and again by these vistas, this never-ending plains, this vast country. And while we've travelled close to 1,600 kilometers from the starting point, we're still in the middle of Australia. It's hard to fathom the size of this continent. Anyway, on we go.
We are heading towards Winditch Springs. This will probably be the second last camp on the route.
From here, the section of the track crosses Kunyu Station property. Basically, this is a cattle station. It's private property. And they've got certain rules that they've put in place. For example, no trailers and no large vehicles. And the reason why they've done that is, particularly with trailers, is they are so tired of helping people with broken trailers that they've just said, no more trailers. That's it, blanket ban. So there should be a camping area about in the middle. There's a spring, so we're going to see if we can make it there by nightfall. With good maps and good GPS maps that we're using, navigation has actually been very, very easy. But this morning we made a mistake. The road there goes for about 8 kilometers, very gnarly, quite challenging, and it just stops. And that track is on our map, and that track, which is the right one, is not. So keep your wits about you, I guess. We're going to block this one off and do a favor for a few other passing travelers, just so they know that it's not this track. That is not the Canning Stock route.
During our morning's drive, we've been entertained by large flocks of budgerigars.
Whoa!
It's very satisfying. Right, Winditch Springs. We're quite close to well 4B. I don't know why well 4 is separated into 4A and 4B. They're two separate springs. And we're at a campsite. And I'm using the GoPro stick as a fly swatter because the flies here are really, really bad. It's all part of being in a cattle area. The ground, a lot of it is denuded from cattle grazing. Yeah, the flies are kind of to the point where they could actually spoil everything. I've had worse in the past, but they're bad, and it's the cattle areas that bring them. Okay, there's the sign, pretty crude as it is, to Halls Creek. We've just come from Halls Creek, of course, and now heading for Wiluna.
And this is Winditch Spring.
Some campsites have been refurbished and are supplied with a dunny. A dunny is an Australian word, I think it's Australian, and it's one of those. Can you hear that sound? That's not the dunny making the noise, that is a bird. It's called a GoPro bird, and it sounds exactly like a GoPro turning off. Listen. Come on. Oh well. Yes, well.
This is my view from the dunny. Now there are a few signs that says keep the toilet lid closed. That is absolutely vital for the disposal and disintegration of the waste matter, ecologically speaking. So I'm going to turn off now.
This morning is very typical of my day on the trail. I woke up before sunrise, as it is now, jumped out of the car, grabbed my camera equipment, grabbed my tripod, fit the camera to the tripod, fit the microphone to the camera, make sure everything's working, do a quick test shot, make sure everything's on there, changed the battery because the battery was weak, and then start filming incredible sunrise, trees. This morning, that astonishing, bewitching sound of the butcher bird. And after I've recorded that, 15 minutes, I then have a pee. I was busting for a pee from 3 o'clock this morning. Too cold to get up and too busy. Too many things. Worried about missing them. Too many things to capture on camera.
Like this, for example.
Typical morning in the bush for me. We're less than 200 kilometres from the end of the Canningstock route, having started 16 days ago at Halls Creek, and it's quite a thing. I read on a map actually, and it said that the Canningstock route is one of the loneliest public tracks in the world. And you know it is. Can you think of a track that is, let's put it this way, 1,600 plus kilometers long, no roads during that period of time, only just one, tiny settlement, population approximately 70 on that route. While we were driving through some farms, there weren't any farmers. The farms are so big, they're hundreds of kilometers across. So you see no people. How many dwellings did we see on that 1600 route? Apart from the village, none. Not one. Shops, supplies, places to get spares, places to get help. None. Just that one small village, 675 kilometers from Halls Creek. That's astonishing. I don't know of another track like this in the world. I certainly have never traveled another trip like this in the world. And I'm finding it a little bit difficult to kind of grasp that achievement. There are people in this country that covered the Canningstock route all their lives, and they want to do it, because, you know, it's a long trip. For most people, it's at least 3 to 4 weeks as a round trip. It's expensive, not only just to get to the start point, but you need good vehicles, good equipment, and it's a really challenging vehicle trip. And yet, it's very popular. Thousands, and I don't know how many thousands, I've heard varying reports, of people do the Canningstock every year. Crowded? Not at all. But it is definitely one of those tick box items in Australian overlanding. And I've just done it as my very first Australian Outback experience. And I'm overwhelmed.
Hard right. Yeah, and now left.
For our final campsite, we've chosen an elevated table of bare red rock where the intensity of the setting sun is unfettered.
as we edge nearer and nearer the end of our expedition, with well 3 behind us, well 2, which is a public campsite ahead of us, and well 1, which is right next to the town of Wiluna. I need to thank those people that made this possible. BF Goodrich Tyres, Quick Pitch Campers in Wangara, just north of Perth. Thank you for your efforts in building me an amazing truck. ARB Wangara, first class. Who else? Sinorama and Joondalup for the wrap. It's worked brilliantly. Not a scratch on the truck. Who else? Alucab, Perth Diesel Performance. All of those who contributed. Your products will be highlighted during the presentation of this video. If you haven't seen the videos at this point, go back and have a look at them. All the products I've used, all the products I've tested. We had one breakage on the entire trip, just one, and it was something that I made to mount the HEMA HX1 Explorer on the console, and it snapped. The only breakage on the whole trip. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss our weekly videos.